Cameras capture what residents have always denied. Rancho Sombrio. The fog always arrives first. This is what everyone in Rancho Sombrio will tell you if you dare to ask. The dense fog, thick as wet cotton, that creeps across the abandoned cornfields. Every Thursday, without fail at 3 in the morning. No matter the season, no matter the weather, every Thursday, 3 in the morning. Like a broken clock that still tells the right time twice a day, but the residents always denied the rest. My name is Rafael Mendez, and I've been an investigative journalist for 15 years. I've covered political scandals, criminal organizations, corporate fraud. I thought I'd seen it all. I was wrong. So wrong that I still sometimes wake up in the middle of the night, sweating profusely, with the images from those cameras burning into my retina like a branding iron. It all started with an anonymous email. They're lying, all of them. Come to Rancho Sombrio. See for yourself what happens on Thursdays. The cameras don't lie. Usually, I would delete something like that without a second thought. Conspiracy theories, urban paranoia, bored people seeking attention. But there was something about that email. Maybe it was the tone. It wasn't hysterical, it wasn't dramatic, it was resigned. As if the writer had already given up on being believed, but needed to try one last time, and there was an attachment. A 30-second video, low-quality security camera footage, time-stamp showing 3:17 a.m. on a recent Thursday. A deserted street, dim streetlights, fog beginning to form. And then, something crosses the frame. It wasn't an animal, it wasn't a person. Or rather, it was something that once was a person but wasn't anymore. The form was humanoid, but wrong in every possible way. The limbs were too long. The way it walked was disjointed, as if the joints were in the wrong place. And the eyes. Even through the poor video quality, those eyes shone with a light that shouldn't exist. 7 seconds later, he disappeared into the fog. I spent the next 3 days trying to prove it was fake. Video analysis, metadata verification, consultation with visual effects experts. They all came to the same baffling conclusion. If it was a hoax, it was the best one they'd ever seen. No sign of digital editing, no suspicious compression artifacts. Nothing. So I did what any minimally curious journalist would do. I bought a ticket to Rancho Sombrio. The town is deep in the countryside, one of those places you drive past without even realizing it exists. Population, 847 inhabitants, according to the faded sign at the entrance. One main street with half a dozen shops, 2 churches, a school, a gas station that looked like it had been there since the 70s, and an odd silence, not the peaceful silence of the countryside. It was different. It was the silence of someone who is constantly listening, of someone who is waiting for something. I stayed at the only inn in town, a place called Recanto do Val, that smelled of mildew and had floral wallpaper from the 80s. The owner, Donna Carmen, was a woman of about 60 with sunken eyes and trembling hands when she handed me the key. "Are you here for work?" she asked, her voice hoarse from someone who had smoked all her life, something like that. "I'm doing a story about small towns in the countryside." She looked at me with an expression I couldn't decipher at the time. Later, I learned to recognize it. Pity. "Don't go out at night on Thursdays," she said, turning her back before I could answer. I spent the first 2 days talking to residents, asking subtle questions, trying to understand the dynamics of the city. The answers were always the same, as if everyone had memorized a script. Rancho Sombrio is a peaceful town. Nothing strange happens here. The fog? It's just the weather in the region. But their eyes told a different story. There was something in the glances they exchanged when they thought I wasn't paying attention. Something close to terror, but also resignation, like prisoners who had already given up on escaping. On Wednesday afternoon, I met Tomas at the municipal library. He was young, perhaps in his early 20s, and worked as an assistant to the town's only librarian. When I casually mentioned that I was interested in local history, he nearly dropped the stack of books he was carrying. "You need to leave," he whispered, looking around as if the bookshelves could have ears. "Before Thursday." "Why?" He hesitated, the conflict visible on his face. Then quickly, he scribbled something on a piece of paper and stuffed it in my pocket before running off. Back in the room, I opened the paper. An address, and one line, 2:45 a.m. alone, external cameras only. The address led me to an abandoned house on the outskirts of the city, so close to the fields that vegetation was already beginning to invade it. I arrived at exactly 2:45 a.m., my professional camera in my backpack and a recorder in my pocket. Tomas was already there, nervously smoking under a tree. "You're crazy to come," he said as I approached. "But since you're here, you need to know the truth before it's too late." "Too late for what?" "To leave." He led me to a small shed at the back of the property. Inside, there was a makeshift monitoring system, with 4 monitors connected to cameras strategically positioned around the city. All second-hand equipment, but functional. "I put this together 6 months ago," Tomas explained, his voice trembling. "Nobody can know. If they find out, I don't know what they would do to me. But someone needs to document it. Someone needs to have proof." "Proof of what?" He didn't answer. He just looked at his watch. 2:58. "It's going to start in a few minutes. You're going to see what they deny. What we've all been forced to deny." We sat in silence. The only sounds were our breathing and the low hum of the monitors. 3 came and went, then 3:05. I started to think that Tomas was paranoid, that there was nothing but a boring city and rural superstitions. Then at 3:11, the fog began. It wasn't like normal fog. This one moved purposefully, like something alive, crawling through the streets with translucent fingers. And inside it, shapes. "My God," I whispered, leaning closer to the monitors. "That's not God," Thomas replied, his voice empty. "It's the complete opposite. The shapes in the fog were humanoid, like in the video I received, but now I saw dozens of them, moving through the streets, stopping in front of houses, looking at the windows with those bright, dead eyes. Some houses had lights on. I could see shadows of awake people watching through the curtains. "Why don't they go out?" I asked. "Why don't they do anything?" "Because there are rules," Thomas said. "Old rules. If you stay inside with the doors and windows locked, they can't touch you. But if you go outside..." He zoomed in on one of the cameras. On monitor 3, a figure was emerging from a house. A man, perhaps 50 years old, staggering as if drunk or high. He began walking towards the fog. "No," Thomas murmured. "No, Mr. Maurice, no." The creatures turned simultaneously, all those heads spinning in perfect synchronicity. Then they began to move toward the man, not running. That would be less terrifying. They moved with that disjointed, impossible gait, limbs flexing at angles that broke all the laws of human anatomy. Mauricio stopped. Even through the camera quality, I could see that he had realized his mistake. He tried to go back, but it was too late. They surrounded him. And then, I'll spare you the specific details, not because I'm sensitive, but because some things, once described, never leave your mind. Suffice it to say that what they did to Mr. Mauricio wasn't quick. And when they finished, what remained was no longer human. It was one of those things, another creature for Thursday's collection. I vomited on the concrete floor. Tomas didn't judge me. He simply handed me a bottle of water with hands that trembled as much as mine. "Now you understand," he said. "Now you know why everyone lies." The following hours were a blur of horror. I watched through the cameras as the creatures patrolled the city, while the fog thickened and writhed like a living thing. I saw doors being tested, windows being scratched. I heard even through the monitors the sounds they made. They weren't sounds that human throats should produce. At 5:47, as suddenly as it began, it ended. The fog receded, the creatures disappeared into the fields, and Rancho Sombrio returned to silence. But it wasn't peace. It was the exhaustion of someone who had survived another week. "How long?" I asked, my voice hoarse. "How long has this been going on?" "Nobody knows for sure," Tomas replied, turning off the monitors one by one. The older folks say it's been like this forever, since before the city even had a name. They say this place was sacred territory for an ancient people, and that we've desecrated something we shouldn't have. Others think it's an experiment, or a curse, or something worse. Why don't you all leave? He laughed, a humorless sound. You think we didn't try? My cousin tried 2 years ago. He managed to get to the highway. The following Sunday, they found him back, walking down the main street. But it wasn't him anymore. He looked like they look. He moved like they move. 5 days later, he disappeared the following Thursday. They transform people, I understood. Not only do they transform, they complain, as if the city belonged to them. As if we were the invaders. We left the warehouse as the sun began to rise. The city was waking up, people heading out for their morning routines. The baker was opening his shop. Children were walking to school. As if nothing had happened. As if Mauricio hadn't been turned into a monster just a few hours ago. You have the recordings, Tomas said as we said goodbye. Do something with them. Tell the world. Someone has to believe you. I promised I would try, but I still didn't know how much that promise would cost. I went back to the lodge and locked the door. I transferred all the videos, from the cameras to my laptop, and 3 backup drives, evidence, concrete proof of what happened at Rancho Sombrio every Thursday. I should have left immediately, but I was a journalist. I needed more. I needed interviews, context, the whole story, so I stayed. Friday was strangely normal. People avoided talking about the previous night with an expertise that came from years of practice. When I asked about Mauricio at the bakery, the silence was so profound, I could hear my own heart beating. Mauricio moved, the baker finally said, without looking me in the eye. Suddenly, you know how it is. Everyone else in the bakery nodded in agreement automatically. On Saturday, I tried to speak with the mayor. His secretary told me he was busy, but could see me on Monday. When I insisted, she finally told me the truth. He's not going to talk to you. Nobody will. You should have left. It was on Saturday night that I realized I was being followed, shadows in the corners, quick movements in my peripheral vision, and eyes. Always those bright eyes in the dark windows, watching me wherever I went. Sunday morning, I found a note under my door. Thursday, you will understand, you will join us. The letters were irregular, as if written by hands that barely remembered how to hold a pen. I went to Tomas's room at his family's house. He answered the door with red eyes, as if he hadn't slept. They know I showed them the cameras, he whispered. Last night, something was scratching at my window. Something that knew my name. We need to leave, now. It won't work. They won't let us. Who? The creatures. The creatures, the city. Everything is the same now, but I wasn't going to give up. Not after what I'd seen. Early Monday morning, I got in my car and tried to leave via the main road. The car ran perfectly until the city exit sign. Then for no apparent reason, the engine died. I tried calling. Nothing, not even a click. I got out of the car and started walking. 50 meters later, something made me look back. My car was different, as if it had aged decades in seconds. The paint was peeling, the tires were flat, and on the windows, something was written in the fog. Thursday. I ran back to the city. Tuesday was when Donna Carmen finally spoke to me. I found her in the inn's kitchen at 3 in the afternoon, drinking tea with hands trembling so much that the liquid spilled. When she saw me, she started to cry. My daughter, she said. They took my daughter. She's 15 years old. She tried to run away on Thursday. I thought she would stay inside, like we always did. But she thought she could run. She thought she was faster. I am really sorry. Now she hangs out with them. I saw her yesterday through my window. She looked at me. She recognized me. And she smiled. But it wasn't her smile. It was their smile. She gripped my hand with surprising force. They're coming for you, she whispered. For you and for Tomas. You broke the rules. You saw too much. You questioned too much. On Thursday, they're coming specifically for those who break the rules. And the cameras. They show what everyone denies, because if we don't deny it, we go crazy. It's the only way to live here. To pretend it's normal. To pretend we don't see. To pretend we don't know that our neighbors, our friends, our family. Everyone eventually transforms, possibly? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. Everyone who dies here becomes one of them. It's the price. For living on this land. For building our homes where they hunt. On Wednesday, Tomas disappeared. I searched for him all over town. His family said he'd left in the morning and hadn't returned. But in their eyes, I saw the truth. They knew exactly where he was. And they knew they would never see him the same way again. I found his body at 4 in the afternoon, in the shed where he had set up the cameras. He had hanged himself. But what froze me, what turned my blood to ice, was the note in his hand. Better to die human than to live like them. Raphael, run, no matter how. Die on the road if you need to. But don't let them transform you. The cameras have automatic cloud backup. Password, Rancho Sombrio 2024. Tell the truth, I cried. For the first time since I arrived in that cursed city, I truly cried. And now it's Thursday, 3 o'clock in the morning sharp. I'm locked in my hostel room, all the doors and windows sealed. I have my laptop open, live streaming to 3 different platforms. I've sent backup files from the cameras to 5 different journalists. I've sent everything to the police, to the federal government, to human rights organizations. Someone has to believe the fog has already started. I can see through the cracks in the window, that dense white thing creeping down the street. And I can hear the sounds, those impossible sounds they make, and the steps, many footsteps. Coming towards me, they're testing the door now. The doorknob turns slowly. Something scratches the wood with fingernails that are too long, too sharp. A voice from the other side, deep, distorted, but recognizable. Raphael is Tomas, or what Tomas used to be. Open the door, Raphael. It's so much better on the other side. Without fear, without pain, just the fog. Just us, forever. The cameras that Tomas installed are still working. They're transmitting everything. I was able to access the feeds remotely. And what do I see? The whole town is surrounding the inn. Hundreds of them. All those who died in Rancho Sombrio in the last God knows how many years. All waiting, all wanting to take me. The door is starting to crack. I have a choice to make. The same one Tomas made. To die human or... No. If you're reading this, if you're watching the recordings, please believe it. Duck Ranch is real. The creatures are real. And they're growing. Every Thursday, one more person joins them. Every Thursday, they get stronger and the fog is spreading. There are reports from other cities, did you know? Other small rural communities where strange things happen. Where people deny the impossible. Where cameras capture what shouldn't exist. How many Rancho Sombrio are there in the world? The door just gave way. They are entering. Last update to Rafael Mendez profile. Status. Unknown last known location. Rancho Sombrio note from the family. If anyone has information about Rafael's whereabouts, please get in touch. He hasn't responded to messages for a week. Authorities say there's no record of him in the city, but we know he went there. Editor's note, the videos Rafael sent were analyzed by our experts. The official conclusion is that they are elaborate fakes, possibly created with generative AI or advanced CGI techniques. There is no evidence of paranormal activity at Rancho Sombrio, but why then can't we contact anyone in the city? Why do all our calls drop? Why in satellite images does the city appear perfectly normal during the day, but every Thursday at 3 in the morning, an abnormally dense fog completely covers it, blocking any view? And why, in the last photo Raphael sent to his family, is there something in the window behind him? Something with glowing eyes. Someone needs to go there. Someone needs to investigate. Someone needs to find out the truth, but not me. Not me, never me. Because I dreamt about the fog last night. And when I woke up, there were fingernail marks on my window, inside, end or not. Thursday always comes back and the fog is spreading.